Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Macabre Mondays. My name is Kyle Gentry. I am a character designer and character illustrator. And today we're going to be working back on Disharmonia McMorbidly. Last time I started laying in the local colors, flat colors, just getting all the base colors laid down. And now we're going to start building up tone. We're going to block in the shadow, highlight, and such on the skin, and maybe a few other areas just to give you an idea of what that looks like. So last time I didn't finish blocking in the color. I keep these videos around 40 minutes, to keep the time short, respect your guys' time, just to give you an indication of how I do each step. So today we're going to be working on our skin, like I said, maybe a few other areas, and by the next Macabre Monday video, we will have all that laid in, and I'll start on the next step. So we'll just get going right here. There we go. Don't want it too pink. And it's kind of a mid-tone shadow. I'm not going for the deepest shadow. I'm just, like I said, I'm just blocking in where the shadows go. Get rid of the... There we go. I don't want too much of that sketch interfering with my eyes. There we go. Okay. Make sure I have the right tool equipped. Back to I use my transparent watercolor because I like building tones. And keep in mind your location of your light source. It's going to be slightly up and to the right. So there's going to be cast shadow on this side of the chin, like right here. Like right here, there we go. And I'm just going to move around. I'm not going to stick to one area primarily. I'm not worried about making mistakes either. And I've put the eyes on a different layer so I can't hurt them. Yeah, not like that. Let me fix one thing real quick. This also allows me to fix problems. Oh, that's a big eraser, man. Hard eraser, okay. And I don't like the way... There we go. Actually, it's the reverse problem. Let me fix this real quick. I tweak as I go. I really do. This is just... So there we go. Okay. There we go. There was just some weird little angle right there I didn't like on the hair. Like where the skin meets the hair, so I fixed it. Alright, back to shadow work. I'm just roughly kind of putting in where shadow goes. There's that divot that's underneath the nose that everyone has. There is a technical name for that. I'm not sure what it is. And since her mouth kind of projects from her face a bit, I'm going to put a bit of a shadow. And this, more of a shadow right up near the edge of it. Too much. I don't want her nose to get too shadowy, except for right on that very edge for the form, because I want it to pop out from the picture, and that's super important. Let's clean up that line a little bit. And as much as I'm not putting a ton of detail in, I am acknowledging that the detail is going to be there. I'm not, in some areas like around the nose and things, I'm not going too heavy in the shadows because I know there's got to be quite a bit of detail in that area with the way the skin curls together and stuff where she's scrunching her face up just a tad. That helps pop her out right there. Fix a form here too. Back up to the hair. I didn't like how one cheek was sharp and the other one wasn't. I didn't like that. Yeah, it's just not flaws in the drawing, but definitely improvements that I can make as I go. That's a little better. Okay. If I move back to here, I can shave off just a little bit more of that edge right there. Just a little too harsh. And I'm carving away at it because the hair's on an upper layer, and I can get away with, I'm using the hair shape to carve away at the, skin. Yeah, okay. Let's see what that was. I overdid it on the eye right there. Gotta remember that's on a little bit of fix it. I really need to put those eyelashes on an upper layer, else I'm going to be dealing with that forever. We're going to fix that. Keep that orbital going right there. Okay. Go back down to the skin. Get that fixed. There we go. Okay. Let's see where those eyes are. And this is why it's important to label properly. There it is, eyebrows. Okay. There it is. All right, it is above now. I just want to make sure it's... Yeah. Get away with that. It's the spears on the same layer too. At least part of it. I think I did. No, I didn't. I labeled it that way, but I didn't do it that way. Let's fix that now. Okay, back to the face. Now that that's all fixed. And I've got a layer that's like the shadow layer for the skin, so that's what I'm painting on right now. It's masked just onto the skin itself. Masks help a lot. If you haven't used a program like this before, Photoshop, if you're new to digital art, masks basically help you keep the integrity of the art by only applying it to the paint where like if you apply a mask layer on top of another layer, it only paints on the area that the paint is on the layer below it. So it gives you an edge. Like for instance, if I'm painting here, it doesn't go outside like anywhere there's the skin tone. Got these big jowls. Brush a little bigger. In some cases with these family members that I'm designing, she's got kind of a big, broad, basic face. Sometimes that's a little harder than doing the detailed ones because you can make mistakes in the detail and hide it. And this is a big shape, and you got to get the big shape right. Too far with it. Use a little bit of a blender to kind of take away some of the roughness. I try not to use blenders as much as possible because it muddies up the color sometimes. There are times when I do and it's called for, and they're great. I do like them. I'm using one called Blur by Fiber. It's one of my favorite ones. But I would say if you're learning form and learning technique, try to use blenders as little as possible. Just use the paint to blend. Use color to blend. You'll understand color much better by the end. I promise you. Then you can go into a blender tool and learn how to use it properly. So you don't become like addicted to using it. So you're just laying in. The nose sticking out from the face has to be the brightest part because it's closest to you. That's why I want to emphasize it that way. So. And yeah, I know some of the outline here is kind of rough with the hair. I'm leaving that on that way, that purpose, because I want to draw some curls over the face that kind of cross over the skin line. So and there's some area of cleanup on a few other things too that I need to work on, but not too bad. That's all part of the refinement process. Wrong layer. There we go. Okay. Yeah, poor old Disharmonia. One of the world's worst opera singers. Don't tell her that though. A little bit of the jowl motion there, this curve. I want to keep it a big round face, and I brought the shadow down too harshly with a line. You gotta stay away from that. And this divot in her chin is obviously the most sunken thing in the forefront of her chin, so it needs to be darker than the other parts. Like this is roughly a sphere that her chin is. It's got a kind of an oobless shape to it, but just blending back just a little bit, because I am going to come in with highlight and render a lot more. Bring that back up just a little bit again. There's this perfect balance right there in that line that I want. I wasn't getting it. There we go. Okay. And if the fibrous nature of the blender brush gets too much, I just do a tiny little blur. Tiny. I want the texture to stay, but if it gets, you know, there's a balance I'm trying to strike. If it gets too much, then I'll blend back into it. And there is this thing that I do with these characters where I'll leave outline in some places and take it away. It's just lost and found lines. I like playing with that. That's just another tool to give interest to the work. Yes. All right. Now I'm going to take a little bit off this back cheek again. It got a little too dark and kind of, I want it to be bulbousy, you know, got a little too dark right there. It's sticking out just enough that it is catching some of that light, of course. Because it's not an extreme light from the far right coming in. It is a bit above, so you're going to get it out over here. She does have a beating mark on the cheek, but that's a detail, and the details like that I do at the end. So, okay, go back and add some more. What happened there? Add some more shadow up here under the hair. There we go. That hair is going to stick out a little bit. Just going into some of the further detail, much refining a bit here. Some of the wrinkles under the eyes. Really kind of going deep around the eyes, because I want her, not all the characters have as piercing a gaze as her, and I want her gaze to be like super like soul-shatteringly piercing kind of a thing. Like while she's singing, she has to stare at you in some kind of really uncomfortable manner to make sure you are paying attention to her and that you understand that she's the best at her profession. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's go and do a little bit of highlight. I'm going to just focus on her face right now. There's her chest area and her hands, of course. That's part of it. I'm going to leave the shadow color there, though, so we can... And since her skin is so pale, the highlight is got to be a little extreme to show it. And that's why I put it on a separate layer. Usually I try and keep the highlight and the shadow on the same layer so I can blend them back and forth. But because her skin is so pale, I want that highlight to not get muddied up. And I'm pushing the rim light around the bottom of the nose a little extreme. That's on purpose. Because like I said, I really want it to stick out. It is a little weird for me talking about the technique as I go through and do it, because a lot of it's just intuitive. You know, I just kind of do what I do, but it does help to talk through it, because it helps me understand why I'm doing some things, and sometimes it's just good to know why that is the way it is, why it is that I go about doing it a certain way. And these are, you know, the shadow's the mid-tone shadow. It's not the deep shadow yet. I haven't gone there yet. As I said, I'm just kind of laying things a bit in, and you know, she's got that. Since the light's coming from this area, this is going to be a bit bright. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. There we go. A little bit of a highlight around this. Oops. Where did the shadow there go? It disappeared for some reason. There we go. Should be shadow back in here. Throw in a little bit of roughness to show kind of the hair. Because it's shadow being cast by the hair. And I'm not going with the hair exactly. I'm just kind of cheating it a little just by roughing in roughly some of the shapes. There we go. Okay. Back to the highlight. I said rim light, and I know that fur collar that she's wearing needs some cleanup, so I'm going to do that right now because it's going to drive me crazy unless I like cleaning. I like painting on a clean edge, and that edge is not clean at all. There we go. That's much better. Yes. Now let me back up and look at that. Oh my, yes, so much better, so much better. Okay, back to the highlight. And this is the reason you're seeing it go brighter and then kind of somewhat transparent is that this pen is awesome in that it super relies on the pressure from the pen on my tablet. So the harder I press, the darker it gets, or the more, I should say, the more opaque it gets, not darker. It's the wrong word. The more opaque it gets, and it's really great about sensing that. There's this. That's why I like this tool so much. It's great for blending in that way because you can just kind of lightly go in and fix things slowly. Until you get the tone you want with the tool. And also, too, for those that have seen my portraits before, you'll notice that she's a bit more colorful than the portrait actually comes out. That's because when I'm done with all this, I take it into Photoshop and actually apply a sepia tone filter over it, and then I start playing around with the actual color adjustment on it. And that gets it up to where I want tone-wise. Almost there. Get some of this right here. There we go. Okay, I want to follow that just a little bit closely. And I throw in lines for shade, things like that. I like the texture it gives. Like like this, and just throw in squigglies and shapes and whatnot. I like there's a quality about it that I really like. Drew Struzan, who is one of the world's most famous movie poster painters, he painted some of your favorite movies up until he retired a couple of years ago. And he has this wonderful quality where he uses colored pencil over the top of acrylic and things like that, puts these great lines in for directional force. And if you don't know who he is, but you've seen like Back to the Future, Raiders of the Lost Ark, things like that, he did all the movie posters for that. E.T., The Goonies. He is easily one of the most world-renowned movie poster artists. He used to be sought after like crazy, and then movie posters, the companies decided to go cheaper and start making Photoshop out of everything, and that's when movie posters all started to look exactly alike. And that sucks, to be honest. I'm not a fan of it. Most people aren't a fan of it. You can actually see when one movie gets a decent, kind of somewhat original idea, everybody copies it, and all of a sudden you've got everybody's movie poster looking exactly the same as that one. And it's just bad. It's just bad art. It's a poor excuse for saving a buck. Movie posters are supposed to get you excited about seeing the movie, and nothing gets me more excited about seeing a movie than a poster that looks like the movie that came out 2 months ago. And I'm being facetious, of course. But I kind of look at it this way. With this portrait I'm working on and everything, I've said it in other videos. I had an art teacher in college, or a painting teacher in art college, who she's a kind of a kooky woman. She was kind of fun. He didn't know if she was to take her seriously or not. She had one of those half-serious faces, and when she smiled, it really kind of warmed your heart because she didn't smile very much. She was so focused on what she did, but when she did smile, it was awesome. But she told me, she said, Kyle, she said, no matter what you paint and no matter what you draw, you need to make it a feast for the eye. And that's my goal. It's, no matter what subject matter is, whether it's kind of something kind of like funny and creepy like this, or if it's kind of sad and dramatic and humorous like my Monty the Unfortunate Octopus series, or even client work that I'm doing, I try my best to make the artwork a feast for their eye. It just works so nicely that way. If you treat your art like that, if you no matter what it is, it can be considered a very basic painting, but you still make it a feast for the eye. That's just up to you and your artistic preferences. That's why I love detail and I love noodling and I love all this stuff. Okay, so I've got a decent middle range blocking in of the shadow and the highlight on her face. We're gonna go and do the rest of her skin right now, and that'll take us to the end of this video easily enough. Just kind of the same thing. Paying attention to form, and she's got kind of pudgy hands, of course, so I don't have to worry too much about the bones in her hand. Like you can see bones and tendons and things like that. She's got sausage-like fingers, and I don't have to worry too much about that level of detail. I wanted her to be like that classic, like a darker, comedically dark version of the fat lady that sings, like from all the old Bugs Bunny cartoons and stuff, the opera singer, wearing the Brunhilde, Viking outfit, kind of a thing. Okay, that's too much. There, too much. All right. I don't have my brush big enough, that's why it's doing that. This deep shadow right in the cleft there between her breasts, because they're big, and I designed them that way to be comic. this area requires a blender because there's too many big forms that if you put one stroke wrong, it messes the form up for me. So I'm gonna go in and play with this a little bit. Soften up some of those areas that are a little too harsh. And there's going to be a cast shadow of the necklace. I've got these, I've got her necklace is musical notes, and there's like kind of these skeletal-like faces in the bottom of each note that are singing with her with different mouth shapes. So she's having a duet with these little forces that live inside of her necklace or whatever it is. I don't know how to describe it, just something funny. Yeah, there's a nice softness there. I want it to be soft. I do want to get rid of those stupid circles, though. It's driving me crazy. I had a different design for her necklace originally. There it is. And I didn't like the way it came out, so I changed it. So we're going to go back to the fur collar and tighten up that edge again, because that edge is wonky. I don't want to go too far though, because this feathering, pardon me, is on the same layer, so I don't want to eat into that. I can always redraw over it again, but there was a weird kind of wobbliness to that edge. All right. Get my blur by fiber back out. There we go. Okay, there was... Yeah, alright. Now let me soften up or add a little bit more in detail to the fingers here. I'm going to do the fingernails on a different layer, so I'm not worried. I want them to be darker, like she's painted them. Might add some little like special detail with a highlight like on them if they're super shiny, like make little skulls or something inside them. Excellent. Okay. That edge work is also due to the fur. Like I have to play back and forth with the layers on this one because the layers are dynamic. There's a lot of stuff going on with the layers, so I have to. Wrong layer. I have to, sometimes I can cover up something with, like her skin, the fur is both on top of and underneath, so I have to, if I'm going to keep it in simple layers, I have to mask part of it and not mask part of it. Like there's stuff that goes on that I have to pay attention to there. Play a little more with shadow on the other side of the knuckles. Knuckles. Those good old knuckles. Okay. Yep. Too big. Okay, now I gotta find that back down. Alright. Get a little bit of highlight going on, and that'll be it for skin. But this is the same technique I use on the clothes and things like that. Like texturing is a slightly bit different thing. I might use a little bit of time in one of these videos to show texturing, particularly with like the fur collar on her cloak. And maybe her hair, because her hair is going to be easily the most detailed thing in this picture. I want it to overwhelm the picture. And then on her brass brassiere, that's where the big family M's are, and I'm going to do those in her shield. I had a design on there at first that I didn't like. There's going to be some animal or some musical notes or something on there, something music-oriented that looks really annoyed at her singing. All right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's go to the highlight for those, and then Good. We'll be good. All right. Now she's very soft and round, so I don't want hard edges in some like in a lot of places. I have to be careful. Her face had more hard edges because of the cheekbones and such. I could get away with a little bit more there because she's a singer, and I could, big wide open, huge wide open mouth. Like I wanted that to be a prominent feature, the most prominent feature on her face. But this is all soft. So you have soft shadows, soft highlights. The density of the highlight is there, like I said before, on her face, but the edges are a bit softer. Put a little bit of. And I might outline her fingers a little bit when I get down to that. Make this line's a little bit smaller. There we go. Like I don't have to be super detailed on everything. Some ways I'm trying to make your eyes focus in specific areas, and that means taking some detail away from other areas that I don't want you to particularly. It's not that I don't want you to notice them. I just don't want them to be the overall focusing thing. I have a little bit more right here while I'm at it. Too harsh. There we go. Okay. Now this I'm going to definitely soften. I'll add the white, maybe some white shade lines or some white highlight lines in there like I did up top, but after I get the base level of highlight down the way that I want it. And I'm going to go darker on the shadow on my own time as I go in. That'll really, pop everything out that needs to come out. Oh, that was unfortunate. Make everything appear the way it's supposed to is what I want. The stuff that needs to come out and highlight. So I'm going to add a little bit of lines here. I'll do the same thing with some of the shadow too. I think those are a little too much. A little too much. I didn't preserve the integrity of what I did above. I need to keep the watercolor brush, so there we go. Make it a little smaller. There we go. That other brush was a pencil brush, and as much as I like it, for this instance, I couldn't get it to fade like I wanted to because it was a little too harsh. What happened to my screen right there? I think it tried to give me a notification and then it thought better of it. Too much right there. And this is where I can noodle something to absolute death. So I'm going to be very careful. Just put some highlight in where I know it needs to be. Like as I go back and look at the area and just leave everything, because I don't want to screw up the areas that I'm going to have the deep shadow in. Change to one of these middle tone colors a little bit so I can go to the shadow and pop that. I'll add a little bit of darker shadow in one area. There we go. I don't want to lose some of the lines that are created from one side to the next. Yeah, that's good. That's much better. Go back up to the highlight, and I will softly erase a little bit of an edge. There we go. Okay, good deal. Blur, go back down to shadow. Step back. Always step back. Always give yourself a chance to step back and look at the whole picture. Always, to see how things are, because you can sit in one area forever and it'll mess you up if you don't step back. So, all right. Excellent. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop. So that gives you an idea of how I block in shadow and highlight. There's more detail work, of course, to come. But it's, even if it's with textures, it's the same basic thing that I do. It might use a different tool, or I should say a different brush, not a tool, to do different textures. But I use the same basic thing throughout. And the next time you see this, all the shadows and highlights will be blocked out, and then we'll move on to the next step. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you again in 2 weeks on Monday, because I'm doing this bi-weekly. I do my Camp Zombie live stream on this same channel every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you can see how I create characters, props, environments, things like that for show Bibles to pitch animated shows. And we'll have some fun there, but definitely look for the next one of these in 2 weeks on Monday. You guys have a great day. Thanks for watching so much. If you could, give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel so you can see upcoming videos and get notifications. So you guys have a great day.